Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian, and this is going to be my first Malediction video, and I figured the best way to start it off was with the Seeker that I got attracted to the most when I first saw the game, and that's going to be Auric Evenhand. So this will be an interesting approach for me that as, trying to figure out the format for how to do these deck reviews. Essentially, I'm just kind of going to go over how I build these decks for Malediction, and if you're process differs from mine, definitely let me know in the comments section because I'm interested to see how other people look at this stuff. I think when you get into trying to build your own deck in Malediction, it's best to kind of look at the legacy and the Seeker in tandem, but I give more importance to looking at the legacy. I feel like it tells me the story of how this Seeker is going to be playing out. That legacy is going to be active more often than your Seeker will be, unless your Seeker never dies, but people are going after those for that juicy 10 mastery. So we'll start off with Will of the Forge. It states that Auric's going to be bringing along 20 Echo to start off with because he is a red and white Seeker. The first ability on the legacy is Hammerhalf's Heritage. Whenever you play an item, you may draw a card, and whenever an item you own is destroyed, you gain Echo equal to its cost. That plays into the second ability of his legacy called Caldera, or this ability called Caldera's Fist. While an ally you own is performing attacks or is being attacked, you can destroy an item equipped to it. If you do, you choose one of the following. This attack deals 2 extra damage, or this attack deals 2 fewer damage. So the thing to make sure you pay attention to on Hammerhalf's Heritage is it doesn't matter who's destroying the item, it's just that it's being destroyed. So Caldera's Fist, allowing you to destroy one of your own equipment to do extra damage or destroy one of your equipment to soften an attack that comes in, allows you to get the Echo refunded equal to its cost. So you don't feel like you're on the back foot for trying to activate the abilities that you're wanting to do. So just looking at Will of the Forge, we can tell right away that Auric is an item-focused Seeker. Flipping over to Auric himself, he has a Echo cost of 10, an accuracy of 4, his damage is 5 and 3 for a graze, has 0 ranged capability, moves 5 inches, has a 13 defense, and a hefty 20 health. The first ability that he has is called Reforge. This is 2 AP. You choose an item of this unit's rank or lower, so pretty much anything that you would put in your deck, and you choose that from your discard pile. You play and equip it to an ally you own within 6 inches without spending Echo. It does provoke retaliation, but this is a good way to get some of those equipment that you've been sacrificing with Caldera's Fists back into the game, and then you do play those, so that triggers Hammerhalf's Heritage so you can draw. So we can already see that Auric himself with the legacy is creating an engine of equipment that's always being refilled, which is nice because it means we don't have to stack our deck with a ton of equipment in order to get a lot of use out of it. He also has the Man-at-Arms ability that just states that this unit can equip an extra item, so he can hold 2 in addition to a relic. The final ability that he has is Counterattack. Whenever a hit is scored against this unit, it may retaliate after the damage resolves, which is a really great ability when you want to be loading up equipment. The more attacks you take, the better, because your attacks are going to be more quality. And 5/3 is not a weak damage track at all, and with the 20 health, 13 defense is a little mid, I guess, and the 20 health is going to make sure that you can survive to be able to get those counterattacks off. And if people aren't interested in coming into Auric to beat on him because he does have counterattack, it means you can save your AP for Reforges so you can get it on the models that are in the middle of combat doing work. Since we're in white and red, I feel like we have 2 different paths we can go down, and you could definitely blend these if it was more your speed, but I am going to choose one of them. First, since we have the white, so there's a lot of protection involved in here, and prevention and healing and all sorts of stuff. And then the red side, we definitely have a lot more about force projection, and for me, I'm going to go down the force projection road. It fits really well into Auric's background, where he has this sense of him where he has to, control and maintain order, and then this other side of him that just has this burning fury and rage about what's happened to him in his past. So I am going to go and get him some vengeance as we play these games of Malediction. Next up, I want to talk about the units that I bring into the list, and that'll give us a better picture of what comes after that. The first one I'm adding in is going to be 2 Astaris Battlemasters, and this unit gives Dwarf. It's really good for Auric in general, but also, if there's a dwarf-looking thing in this game, it will have to be in this list. It's just the way I operate. But for 6 Echo, we get a unit that has an accuracy of 3, a 4/2 damage track, 0 range capability, 5-inch movement, 13 defense, and 14 health. We also get the Man-at-Arms ability popping up here again, so this unit can equip an extra item just like Auric can. The final ability that we have on the Battlemaster is Onslaught. So for 2 AP, this unit performs up to 3 separate melee attacks. So first we can get extra equipment on this model to increase its melee output, or presumably its melee output, depending on what kind of equipment we have access to in the deck. And then with that Onslaught, once we've got stuck in, we can fire off 3 melee attacks, and that's going to get us great value for the investment that we've put in for equipment on this particular model. And it just makes sure that we're able to do the cool things that Auric wants us to do with his legacy. This one can go up to like a 6/4 damage track if we're destroying our own items to do extra damage. So I feel like the Astaris Battlemaster is a windmill slam at the full allowance of 2. Unsurprisingly, next we're going to be dropping in 2 copies of the True Stone Exemplar. This is another dwarf-esque model, or Vulkyr as this game calls them. And for 7 Echo, we get an accuracy of 3, a 4/2 damage track, much like we have with the Battlemaster, 0 range capability, 5 speed, 14 defense, and 16 health. Now, the abilities for this one, we get 3 out of here, and the first one's going to be Ironclad. This unit gets +2 defense against ranged attacks, bumping them up to defense 16, which is pretty healthy. I mean, some of those smaller ranged attacks we won't be as susceptible to. We also project the Shield Wall ability, so while other allies are nearby, they get +1 defense, so he can broadcast that to them. It also provides it to the Exemplar themselves. Oh no, never mind, it doesn't do that. I'm lying, because it says while other allies are nearby, so scratch that. He's going to stay at 14. But we do get the protection ability that twice per activation, this unit may absorb damage that would be dealt to a nearby ally. Damage exceeding this unit's health is then dealt to the original target. So I wanted to be more proactive or more aggressive in my game plan, but my desire to get all the dwarves I can fit into this deck really outweighs my desire to kind of stick with a theme. So the True Stone Exemplar can take some damage from some of our other better equipped units that are on the table, and getting the extra defense on them is going to be nice. So he basically will go wherever the big fight is in the middle and provide his services until he decides to meet his timely end. But I could see someone taking this out if they didn't want to, but really it's going to be one of the few things in this deck that I've built that has a way of kind of shunting damage back. Next up, we're going to be including 3 copies of the red-white unit, the Twin Blade Skirmisher. Now, part of me feels like since they give us these dual-color units that they almost need to be in there somehow, but everything that the Twin Blade Skirmisher does is valuable for Auric. First, it comes in at a very cheap 4 Echo, and with us starting with 20 Echo, it's nice to have something that's a little less expensive than our Dwarven brethren. We get an accuracy of 2, a 3/2 damage track with 0 range capability, speed 8, which is spiffy, and a 12 defense with a small health pool of 10. For the abilities, we get Hit and Run. Whenever this unit defeats an enemy, it may perform a free move. And then Onslaught, again, for 2 AP, we can make up to 3 separate attacks. And everything about that I said about the Battlemaster is true here on the Skirmisher. Once we get dug in, we can take 3 attacks. That'll make it so it's a little bit easier for us to trigger Hit and Run. So if we want to get out of the fight or out of the scrum, wherever this happens to be, we can apply them elsewhere, hide if we need to, get into some fancy terrain if we want it. And at speed 8, this model is going places that our dwarves don't get to as quickly, so they can go in, be a problem, and then run away if they happen to kill some small units that are waiting on the wings or something like that. Next up, I'm going to be including 2 copies of the Armored Revenant. For 5 Echo, we get a 2 accuracy unit with a 4-2 damage track, 0 range capability, 5 speed, 12 defense, 12 hit points or health, wounds, whatever. We get 2 cool abilities on this one. We first get Cleave. Whenever this unit defeats a nearby enemy with a melee attack, it performs a free melee attack. So with this, we can get, once we chop something down, we can get another free attack, which is what I just read. But the thing is that we want to keep taking as many attacks as possible when we have equipment on us. If we have items attached, our melee attacks get better, and we want to be able to take as many as possible. And for 5 Echo, he's fairly inexpensive, and Cleave is more likely to happen if we're using things like Caldera's Fist to pump our damage to be able to kill some of these smaller things or finish off a big thing we've been working on for a while. And we also get the ability Counterattack that'll play into this. So same as Auric, whenever a hit scored against this unit, it may retaliate after the damage is resolved. So before it even gets to activate, it could attack someone, do some damage to them, finish them off with Cleave, and then take another melee attack into something that's nearby. So we're really about trying to project as many attacks as possible, and I think the Armored Revenant does a really good job for that. The only reason why I have 2 in here instead of 3 is because I've just made some difficult choices in other spots, but if you wanted to play 3 of these, I think it would be a perfect fit for the list. The next unit I've added to the list is going to be 2 copies of the Farsight Ambusher. For 6 Echo, we end up getting a 3 accuracy unit with a 3-1 damage split, 12-inch range on its ranged attack, 6-inch speed, which is spicy, and then 12 defense with 10 wounds. We get 2 abilities, the first of which being Pinpoint. This unit can trace line of sight through other units. Then Ambush. This unit gets +1 damage on attacks against refreshed enemies. So I really just wanted some range support in this list. There's definitely a lot in here that is a little bit on the, not slower side, it's just kind of average speed. But I want to be able to affect things that I can't quite get stuck in with. I know my skirmishers can get around the table real easy, but it's just, I feel like it's nice to have this range support in a list, and I could see them maybe coming out since they are a little bit more pricey and they aren't really playing well into Auric's equipment game. But I do think that there's some value in these ambushers, and there's a little bit of tech built into the list later on that kind of helps them get into better places. But being able to draw line of sight through units is really helpful. And I want to clarify that it's helpful because we're looking to get stuck into a big ball of yuck with our opponent doing tons of attacks. So that's why I think that ignoring line of sight through units is beneficial. The final unit that I'm adding to this list or deck is going to be Rogarth the Breaker. Our favorite Chocobo Knight has a 9 echo cost, which is hefty, but he brings a lot of heat for that 9, and that's going to give us a 4 accuracy, a 6-2 damage split, which is fire, and then we have 0 ranged capability, speed 8, so pretty fast, 14 defense, and then 16 health, so fairly defensible. We get 3 awesome abilities with this particular unit. The first one being Dash, to say that during the unit's activation, it can perform a free move. And when we're performing free moves, we're not paying action points to do attacks. So this is phenomenal for this particular model, especially having a 6-2 damage track. We get Cleave, so whenever this unit defeats a nearby enemy with a melee attack, it can perform another free melee attack. Or not another free melee attack, just a free melee attack. So, just like the Armored Revenants, with that 6-2 damage track and the ability to pump that up through Caldera's Fire up to an 8-4, this is a murder machine. So we should be able to take something down and then get a free attack out of it for our troubles. Finally, we have Devastate 2. This unit deals 2 extra damage on critical hits. So it's this, I don't know if this is quite worth built, like it's not justifying the 9, but it's always nice when you can get that, because then you can go up to an 8-4, or sorry, you're going up to an 8 damage attack, and then Caldera's Fist up to 10, which is brutal. So Rogarth is a pretty easy slot in for me on this one because of the value we can get out of it with all of the equipment attached. Really makes me feel like the 9 is worth it. Now we'll transition into the equipment, and I'm going to stick 2 copies of Feral Gauntlets in here. For 2 Echo, we get an attachment that gives the unit +2 accuracy and gains the Ren 3 ability. Whenever this unit scores a second melee hit against the same enemy during an activation, it deals an extra 3 damage. So this is amazing for Auric's deck with the way that I've built it so far. We have so many onslaughts that we should be, and onslaughts and cleaves too, I guess. I guess it's during this, you have to hit the same enemy, so cleave doesn't quite work here. But the onslaughts do. So being able to make sure that we hit accurately with that +2 is going to help. And the Ren 3 gives us an extra 3 damage to get through. So most of our stuff is going to be doing, once it hits, 7 damage. And that's extremely good considering they've probably taken another hit before that. So we probably get like roughly 11 damage on 2 attacks. And if that doesn't quite do it, then we have a third attack from Onslaught to be able to do the extra damage, which will be nice. Not the extra damage from Ren, but the extra damage for the attack. And then at some point, if you feel like, if you need the extra distance to get there, you can sacrifice this or destroy it to Caldera's Fist in order to get that extra damage in to be able to finish something off if your Onslaught isn't going to quite get you there. So Feral Gauntlet's really good, and you don't have to feel bad about destroying it because you can just get it back with Auric later by reforging. Next up, we're going to be including 3 copies of Scoundrel's Blade. For 2 Echo, we get an attachment that gives the unit +2 accuracy and gains the Swarm 1 ability. This states that the unit gets +1 damage on attacks against enemies engaged with another ally. As I said earlier, our goal is to try and make a big pile of yuck in the middle, and the Swarm should help. We should be able to enable Swarm. I think when people start seeing this, they might start breaking up, but then that's when we can start sending some of those faster things off into the universe to try and pile on them. If we consolidate a lot of our relics into the middle, then they're kind of incentivized to come at us anyways. But I like the 2 accuracy here. I kind of look at accuracy buffs as damage buffs by proxy, just because the more likely you are to hit, the better the damage you're going to get out of this. So Scoundrel's Blade is quite nice, and if you aren't in the Swarm situation to be able to get that +1 damage, it's another great piece to sack away to Caldera's Fist to get the extra 2 damage, and then just reforge it later with Auric if you feel like you need to get that back in for some extra accuracy. This next inclusion is not one that I'm overly attached to, but it's going to be Reinforced Plate. For 3 Mastery, or 3 Echo, sorry, I keep mixing those up. For 3 Echo, we're going to get an attachment that gives the unit that holds it +2 defense, and it gains Ironclad 2. It gets another +2 defense against ranged attacks. So I think that this is more of like it's just a defensive attachment, and I think Horned Helm could probably step into its place and then increase the count of that a little bit. But for me, this is just kind of a tech pick. This could definitely be something that I'd move to like a side deck or sideboard and then pull that in if I really felt like I needed it. But for right now, I'm not really playing my casual games with sideboarding, so this goes into the main deck for me just so that it's a nice way to get some extra Echo out of it, I guess, if you're sacrificing it for 3. But I do like having the extra defense in a pinch, so it works for me here. My next inclusion of this single card is kind of a more cute than good, but I think it's spicy and I like it with the way the deck works. And that's going to be the 1 copy of Hunter's Bow. This item for 2 Echo is going to give the unit that it's attached to +3 ranged, and it gains Ranged Expert that states this unit gains +1 damage on ranged attacks. This is catered for our Farsight archers. This pumps them up to range 15, which is a spicy range, and getting Ranged Expert and Ambush together means that we're getting +2 damage if we're shooting against an enemy that is refreshed, and we just get that +1 in general. So that takes them up to 5 damage, and then we can use Caldera's Fist to turn it up to 7 when we punk somebody. So we can pop somebody from 15 inches away and do 7 damage if we want to, and then reforge it with Auric to get it back on the archers to do it again. So this is kind of like a little mini engine. It does take up the Seeker's activation, which is kind of a bummer, but I do think that it's a really nice tech piece to have in the deck that just can kind of hit people surprisingly. Like, they just kind of get caught off guard by it. I could definitely see taking the cuteness out of this and then removing it to add in a horned helm, get rid of Farsight Archer for a Revenant, and then get another horned helm if you just want to go straight in on melee. But I think this is cute enough to keep it in the deck for myself. It stays in mine, and I have fun whenever I get to do this. Transitioning into spells, I'll be including 2 copies of Call to Arms. This is a red-white spell that we can channel, and it costs 2 Echo, and we reveal 1 card at a time from the top of our deck until we reveal an item. You may play it without spending Echo or add it to your hand. Shuffle the rest of the revealed cards back into your deck. So this enables Auric a little bit more. We only have 7 copies of equipment in this deck, or items, and this turns it into copies 9 and 8, or 8 and 9. And for 2 Echo, it's just a good way to make sure you're getting stuff out there for if you don't have any in your hand. The probability of drawing equipment in the first 2 turns is extremely high, but Call to Arms is just another way to get more equipment out there without having to worry about waiting to draw it in your deck, and then that way you can get access to things a little quicker. I like to be able to consider this just a deck thinning piece, but also just enabling equipment. Our next spell is another Auric specific card, Rebounding Throw. Now we've got 2 copies of this in here as a channel spell, and it states an ally equipped with an item performs a ranged attack with +2 damage against an enemy within 6 inches. After resolving the attack, return the equipped item to its owner's hand. So Rebounding Throw is just it's a way to spend some Echo to do some extra damage. It's range attack with +2 damage on top of it. But the other cool thing is that you perform an attack, and that means that instead of returning the equipment to your hand, you can sacrifice it for Caldera's Fist to make this +4 damage against an enemy model within 6 inches. So this is a really cool way to get some extra aggression out there, and again, kick that Reforge, because if you're sacrificing the equipment that we have in this deck so far, you're getting all the Echo you invested into Rebounding Throw back. So it's a really good what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It's a good investment. You get a good return on your investment. So Rebounding Throw, absolutely 2 gotta go in here. Next up, we'll be putting in 3 copies of Valorous Command. For 2 Echo, we get a channeled spell that simply states an ally performs an attack. And this is much like Rebounding Throw. We just get to do an attack for free. And if we want to, for Caldera's Fist, we can sacrifice or destroy the item that's attached to us, and get that value in damage, and then refund the cost of Valorous Command, then turning on Reforge with Auric. Like I said, when you start looking into the amount of work we can get by churning Reforges and all these extra attacks, you can see the engine to the point where Auric can pretty easily churn through a bulk of his deck in one game, and Valorous Command definitely turns that on for us. Next up, we'll be including 2 copies of Adrenaline Rush. For 3 Echo, we get a channeled spell that states an ally performs an action or uses an ability that costs 1 AP. So this is very similar to Valorous Command. It's a little more expensive, which is why I'm only putting 2 in here, but this can give us some flexibility to say we can move if we don't want to attack, or we can attack, or we don't have any abilities in here that cost 1 AP. They're all pretty much 2. That's why I kind of prioritize Valorous Command over Adrenaline Rush, but I could see you kind of flip-flopping it around, whether you appreciate the flexibility more or you like the straightforward, cheaper attack, because, again, using Caldera's Fist on most of the items that we have is going to refund us back the Echo completely, whereas with Adrenaline Rush, we don't get the full return on it, but it's close enough. But this is just another way to enable more attacks, so it goes in the deck. For our first red bomb, we've got a single copy of Endless Rage. For 5 Echo, we get a swift spell that states Refresh an Ally. It can be activated again later in the action phase. So Endless Rage is extremely amazing for this deck because we have all these units that have Onslaught, and if we're stuck in combat and we had to charge, like say we had to charge to get into combat, we take our 1 attack and then we're done. That's it. That's all we get. But then we can Endless Rage to refresh them later and then take all those onslaught attacks since we're already engaged. So I think if you end up getting if the peace trade works out the way you want to in your favor, like your opponent runs up to a relic, takes it with a model, can't do anything with it later, they're ready to accept a charge from you, then you can do that. endless rage to get your full activation and get that 2 extra AP to onslaught and do a ton of work. So I think that this can definitely take off some tanky relic holders and can catch your opponent off guard. Again, it's a phenomenal spell when you've got a ton of attachments on you that do extra damage, extra accuracy, whatever, and get your Caldera stuff going. So endless rage easily into the deck. The final card to hit our deck is going to be Unstoppable Rush. So for 4 mastery, we get a channeled spell that just states an ally performs an action or uses an ability that costs 2 AP. This is value city for this deck because 2 AP means that we've got Onslaught online. So we can, for 4 Echo, which I probably said mastery, I will always mix up Echo and mastery, I am sorry. But I'm really excited about this one because this is where you can get stuck in and then go ahead and fire off a million billion attacks with Onslaught. It's only 3, but you get what I'm saying. It also, in a pinch, you can go ahead and do your action, but this also allows you to do reforges out of activation with Auric. So if you're absolutely needing something from your discard pile, then you can go ahead and Unstoppable Rush to reforge that back into play. Unstoppable Rush is awesome for this deck because we've got so many things with Onslaught, and we can turn that on and just fire out a million attacks in a turn and just kill whatever we touch. So this is really leaning into the whole we're going for the throat. There are definitely some options when it comes to terrain, but I'm sticking with Asterian Pathways. This terrain ability gives the boosting ability, and it just states units that start their action on the terrain end up getting +2 to their speed. So you could definitely throw in the channeling one from the blue folks, and we do have a lot of spells to channel in here, so having them cost 1 less is nice. But I do like the cover that we get from some of the order terrain. I don't really find any value in the primal terrain in here, the ones that deal 3 damage to you. There's definitely something to be said about the green terrain for being able to not have line of sight drawn to you while you're in it if you're playing against shooting, but I like the speed here just to get stuck in earlier. Here's an image of the deck that we've built on the Malediction Play Network. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description so people can reference it without having to go through the video and build the deck themselves. But when you look at the numbers, things look a little bit scary because we only have 12 units in this deck. We've got 7 slots devoted to attachments, and then I believe that puts us at, was it 12 spells if I remember right? 11 spells. So the thing about Auric that you don't really get to understand until you start playing with him is that he has a massive potential for drawing a ton of cards, and just getting those attachments online with getting those items out there helps get that going. And I think with having 7, you're in the sweet spot. I think it's an 84% chance of being able to start the game with 1 in your opening hand, and then by the time you refresh, I think it jumps up to like 96 or something like that. So as long as you get some kind of attachment in your hand by turn 1 or 2, you can start rifling through and getting things out there and building up. And with all of the extra spells, they're just extra activations, extra attacks. So you're not really doing the disruption thing. You're not doing the protection thing. You are just beating the crap out of people. And that's what this deck is really meant to do. You can build it in whichever direction you want to, whether you want to play the more safe preventative thing. But this is how I prefer to play him, being very aggressive and really leaning in on getting some of these attachments to sing. And I don't think there's really a relic out there that they don't like outside of the ones that buff ranged attacks or anything. Like, more survivability is nice. Being able to pick whichever relic you want whenever you want's nice. There's just I think that this is just my preferred way to play him, but I'd be interested to see how folks are approaching Auric in different ways, especially since I do have I more lean towards getting some of these dwarf dudes in here, so the True Stone Exemplar is probably not the most efficient pick in the universe for them, but it is a fun one for me, so it works here. Outside that, let me know what you think in the comments section below. This is my first attempt at trying to do like a Malediction focused video, and talking about 30 cards is tough to squeeze into a small time frame, but interested on feedback and what other people are doing with this game. Looking forward to making the next one of these. I think we might be going the blue-green route because she's looking pretty spicy to me too. Outside that, just let me know what you think of the video and the game in general. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.